How's it going, man?
Good, good. It's going really good.
Cool.
Thanks for coming to visit me today.
Yeah, you betcha. I appreciate you having me in the big office here.
Yeah, we're living large.
Oh, hell yeah. So I guess, yeah, tell everybody about yourself, or tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so I was born at a very young age.
Really?
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah, so I grew up in the music industry. You and I have had some conversations about that. So, that sums up my childhood. Was every weekend there was music, bands. My dad playing in bands. He owns a music store here in Wausau, and which I grew up in. He still owns that store. So that's really kind of where I got my start with understanding business, and that was in music retail. Mm-hmm. And I was real passionate about music growing up. And then I went and...
Did you play in any bands?
Oh, gosh. I played in all kinds of different bands. I was I was kind of the fill-in guy. I just, for whatever reason, I was doing... I should say, I was a fill-in guy for, like, bands that were gigging out, like bar gigs and things like that. So most of the performing that I did... from like maybe 15 years old to 22 years old was more like the pit band for musicals, because I could read. I'm a drummer. That's what I'm the best at, but I can read music because I grew up playing piano and wind instruments and stuff. So somebody could hand me the trumpet part, and I could play drums to it because I could understand where everything was going to land, so to speak. So yeah, it seemed like I was just hired for these, and I was busy. It's like, who do we get to do this, or come and play timpani on this part for this, symphony part or whatever. Yeah. So I found myself as a teenager, like, I'm in a tuxedo twice a week, like going to the Grand Theater, filling in for this and that, and yeah. So, but it was great, and plus we were very busy with work and stuff. So having that regular band schedule just it didn't fit the lifestyle. So. Yeah. But yeah, I played all kinds of different music and different instruments throughout my life, and things change. So definitely not doing much of that these days. But
yeah, but what I thought was cool is, so you go from working in the local music store, you grow up around that. There's a big networking environment around music stores.
Oh yeah, it was like a coffee shop back in the day. Like we would serve coffee, and people would just come in and grab a cup of coffee. Like, yeah, that's a very good point. I've really forgotten about that, but we would see the same faces 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Oh yeah.
It was a place to go and chill, hang out, and talk to musicians.
And it's the epicenter of that local community.
Yeah.
At least when it comes to musicians.
Yeah.
Because you're a damn good networker.
Well, thank you. I'm the best networker you'll ever meet.
That's what you told me.
Yeah. Actually, thinking back to the music store, that was before really the internet. E-commerce was happening. Like I'm aging myself. I know that was like eons ago, but that's where people found their outlet, for music and musicians, and to hang out and get to know people and network, to your point. So yeah, I spend a lot of time now in business networking. That's how I've grown and built any business that
like
I've
a little
been
bit
a part
closer.
of. So yes, sir.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so I'm like I was saying, that's how I've grown and built any business that I've been a part of is by networking.
So the cool thing one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is I thought it was cool. You jumped from the music store, and then you kind of pivoted more to the national scale. Is what I'd call it.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, there was a distributor at the time calling on the music store. It was Command Music. It was a division of Command Aerospace Company, which is a unique story in itself. But anyway, they were pretty close, and they were pretty close to us, I should say, as far as friendship, and we knew a lot of people in the company. And they called my dad one day and say, "Hey, is it all right if we offer your son a job?" And it's like, my dad's like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do? Like, he's leaving,
Yeah.
But my mom's like, "Go, get out of here." So anyway, no, yeah, I'm honored to have had that opportunity at such a young age. I mean, I was 20 21 maybe, and it turns out I was the youngest ever in the company history to like come on board to be a district sales manager. And so they gave me the Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Northern Illinois territory, and I went out and sold and represented brands in the music industry like Sabian cymbals and Gretsch drums and Takamine guitars and Ovation guitars and Latin percussion instruments. So a lot of really high-end brands at that time.
Yeah,
so
for people that aren't in the music industry, those are known brands. It's not stuff you're walking in there trying to sell them a knife that they've never heard of.
Right. Yeah, so it was had some success there. Of course, companies, they raise the forecast, they take away your biggest customer, and things like that. So there was a lot of challenges with it, but it really back to the networking thing, like being not only kind to somebody, but giving them something, giving them a referral, bringing them business. Like that's what networking is. You got to give 80 referrals before you get one back, and you connect people together, and if they're successful because of it, that's what networking is about. So even back in those days, it was whether I was meeting customers, potential customers, at a trade show or an expo or something that we were putting on, and handing out other music stores information to them, just again, connecting people. So yeah, that was a big part of it back then too.
But
so
what did the job exactly entail? Because most people don't really understand it. I didn't really understand it until I worked at one of the local places, and there was a guy that walked in and he's like, "Hey," and he just bought us pizza, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
There was definitely some buying of pizza, that's for sure. Yeah, but so being a manufacturer's representative in the music industry we had it's kind of like account management. So there was a list of dealers that were currently set up, and then of course we'd get new inquiries, and we'd have to manage those dealer inquiries and either set new people up or get rid of people and so on. But the day-to-day was introducing new products to those stores, training them, showing them the competitive advantages against other products they might be selling against, and really making sure they have the information that they needed to then give to potential customers that are coming to their store. And working with placing orders of equipment and working out deals on how to make sure we're not flooding a small music store with too much stuff at one time, making sure we take care of the little guy, and then of course kind of feeding the bigger guys as they need the stuff too. So,
and a lot of it though, they buy it on credit, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Explain that process, because I don't think people quite understand that.
Well, there's a few different ways. And it still happens today. There's many ways to buy things, but for retail stores, not only in the music industry, a lot of those products are financed by a third party. Most companies in any retail environment, the distributors, that is, they have their own credit department, and they work with, the business owner to say, all right, we were going to put together a $10,000 order. We can let you pay for that over 6 months. If we won't give you a discount on this because we're going to finance it, or whatever. Those deals happen. The third party financing is what we would call a flooring company. It's just it's a finance company that would basically pay the distributor for the entire order, and then they would ask for sales history as soon as we would sell one, or the retail store would sell one. Then they'd pay the credit company. That's a really expensive way to do business.
Yeah.
But for the smaller guys, they were, and probably still are, they're okay with taking a little less margin if they don't have to outlay a bunch of cash for the products. So there's
what's a little less margin in that situation?
That's a good question. I don't know what it is currently.
Okay.
But I know that, back then, this would be, late 90s, early 2000s. I feel like the flooring companies were charging double-digit percentage. Like it was back then, it was even 10%.
Because I know, at least from my experience, selling retail and things like that, a lot of the margin can range from like 30 to 40. Yeah. If you're lucky. Otherwise, you're dropping down to 20.
Yep.
When it comes to product, at least low end product, you're not talking $10,000 pieces. $10,000 pieces are 50 can be a different game. You're maybe looking at a smaller percentage margin, but it's still a decent chunk of change.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, taking away 10 points of margin in cases like that, maybe 15.
And I'll say the third-party financing, in my experience, was almost always big ticket items.
Oh, okay.
So right. So to your point about, look, we're going to sell this $5,000 piano instead of making 20%, we're still going to make $1,000 or $800 or whatever it is. So you get a chunk of change.
Okay.
So you can sometimes justify, and an accountant or a bookkeeper would probably say I'm completely, dumb for even saying that out loud. But you know what? Small businesses got to do what you got to do. You just
Fair.
You make the choices to make sure your doors stay open. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Because, giving up margin at the end of the day, a lot of those places, the hard thing with retail nowadays, at least from my perspective, is there's certain things that will still go in person. You still go down to Walmart. I shouldn't say that. You should still go down to a grocery store. You get your food. The whole food ordering thing hasn't really gotten to the point yet that it's widely adopted.
Right.
But a lot of the, like the music industry, for instance, a lot of them don't seem like when it comes to the hobbies and things like that, there's certain things you'll go down and buy. The rest of them, it seems like you'll just order online.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's changed big time. That gosh darned internet changed everything.
Exactly. So the time you were doing it, they'd go to you, say, okay, I need to place this order for 10 of these, 12 of these, 2 of these. You'd process the order. You'd send out the product, and then you check in on them. Because what people don't realize is you used to walk into the businesses. It wasn't just calling them up.
No, I did very, very little of business was done over email or phone. It was mostly
Was email around back then?
Oh, funny. Nice. Good one. Youngster.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I think there was email. It was AOL. It was dial-up internet, but
wow.
No, I'm just...
Yeah. Back in the old times, we had to crank electricity on that.
Yeah. I need a drink of water.
Yeah. I'll take one too if you got them.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? Good catch. Alcoholic?
None.
Okay. I was going to say it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There. It's a fiesta for the taste buds.
There you go. So you're walking into these businesses. I think that's one of the biggest things. I guess give your experience on that. How did you do that? Like, what was give somebody a playbook, because a lot of people don't walk into businesses anymore. They don't understand it.
Yeah. So, excuse me. I'm doing that right now with my current, with our current company.
Yeah.
And I take that back to, back when I was repping musical instruments, there wasn't very much cold calling. I didn't, because those accounts were mostly established.
Yeah.
And because I was working for such a large company, like if anybody opened their doors, they would be calling us because they kind of needed us.
Yeah.
Now it's completely different for me. Nobody needs me. Like, I'm not selling oxygen. We've got an amazing product, and people love it. But there's lots of ways to do what we do, which is advertising now.
But I guess just to clarify, with the music industry, or with a lot of those different industries where there is like a specific product that you need, a lot of those are exclusive. Where if you need this, let's go Casio. If you need Casio, or RME is a great example. If you need RME, you got to go to this certain firm.
Correct.
Who reps it for this certain district or this certain region.
Yeah.
And then, because I know I was doing some AV stuff, so I got in touch with a couple people. And I'm like, okay, I want to take and get JBL, for instance. Okay, great. They're like, but we only go up to Medford.
Okay.
So the other half of the state is covered by a whole separate market or whole separate rep firm. So, to your point, if you need it, there is only one place to get it. Where now you're in advertising.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and we have some very unique vehicles to do advertising, and we don't have competition necessarily in a couple of those channels. But yeah, walking into a business, and I think back to the first time I was, walking into a new business selling musical instruments. I mean, it can be a little daunting, you know. It can be a little, you know, I used to kind of give myself a pep talk in the car. Like, you got this, buddy. You got this. Just go in there.
Brandon,
you know?
you're nice.
But no, I mean, it's, you know, that's, I would say, one of the most difficult parts, if you're not comfortable with it, is to just get in front of somebody and start talking to them. So music stores always was on, you know, I'd set that appointment, you know, weeks out, and we'd have it on the calendar. So that's how I organized my calendar. And we just, you know, I'd pull into Chicago and I'd know where I'm going to be for the next 5 days. And so those people were expecting me. But you want me to give you a play-by-play on like how now
did you
today or back then?
Okay, let's do it today. So you've got the experience walking into the places. You got to see it progress over the last 50 years.
Yeah, right.
You got to see it progress over the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
What's your playbook? What do you do? What works? What doesn't?
So specifically speaking of cold calling, right now, to just try to get into a business, to see one who works there, who owns it, who's the manager. You know, you can probably spend a bunch of time doing that online, and there's obviously some apps and AI now that you can, you know, harvest that data. So I know people are doing that, but then once you have that data, like, what you're going to just send a cold email? Like, to me, knocking on some doors, you might call it old school, but like, that works. Somebody that's standing in front of you can't delete your conversation. Like, they can't just delete you out of their store like they can an email. So you're there, like,
they could.
Yeah, I suppose they could. But no, I have found some really, really great success with cold calling because I'm just real. I don't go in with products. I don't go in with a big, you know, notebook. I'm very minimal. I go in and I always try to just have I think I'm super funny. So I'll just say, like, I kind of try to just have a little humor when you go in there. One of my favorite lines is if the store has a name like Butch's Auto, I'll go in and ask for Butch. And like, half the time, like, Butch isn't alive anymore. He doesn't work here. It's just the name of the shop. Yeah. And as an example, like, there was a company in town here who their company name it had Tommy in it. So I was like, I just go to it and I just walked into the retail store and I said, and I know there's no Tommy, but I said, is Tommy here? You know, and the receptionist kind of was like, didn't know what to say. And I know there's a couple guys over in the corner that heard me, and they're like, "Oh gosh, who's this guy?" And then when I said, "Just joking," and joking, and this is who I am, I was able to talk to the owner. Just kind of icebreaker, I guess, right?
Oh yeah.
So I think the biggest mistake that people make when they're cold calling is that they expect to make a sale. Like, they want to walk into a business, they've got their brochures and their booklet, and they want to be able to make a presentation to the owner or manager. Yeah. And I don't think that's real, you know, especially in advertising, marketing, you know, I mean, that's just not real. You know, you need to go in, you need to drop a card, if you get to talk to the owner, great. Talk about dogs or pets or something, because that's what everybody has in common, or find out if they have kids. You know, you gotta find that icebreaker. So
the weather always worked for me. Because in Wisconsin, though, it's cool because the best part is I always walk in there and I'm like, yeah, how's it going today, man? Or I'll walk in there and say, man, is it hot out or something? And then all I have to say is, man, I wish we had snow right now. And that person's either getting ready to just berate you, or they're looking at you saying, man, I could use the cold weather. And it's a conversation about snowmobiling, or it's a conversation about bonding over the fact that you hate snow. Yeah. And then you can just crack jokes about, oh, yeah, you got back surgery now from the shoveling or whatever.
Yeah, and that's totally it. Yeah. So my favorite one about the weather is I walk during the winter when it is very cold. I love doing it. I walk in, and first person I meet, I'm like, you ever heard of cold calling? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, this is really cold calling. Right? Like, it's the dumbest thing, but then it just catches them off guard. And then they're like, oh, well.
You can't not laugh at that.
Yeah, yeah. And then I use, and people know you're in there. If I got my branded shirt on or whatever, it's like some people, what are you selling?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Drugs.
What do you need? Let me sell you what you need.
Yeah, let me get it out of my pocket here.
Yeah. So
So how do you get past the gatekeeper? Because that's the big question. Everybody.
that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, if the gatekeeper is trained to keep to keep the gate closed,
Yeah.
it's tough. But I found just leveling with that person, saying, you just got to be honest. Say like, look, I know your job is to grab my card and pass it along, which when people ask me for my card, I really hesitate. That gatekeeper, if they say, well, give me your card, I'll pass it along. I have even just said straight out, I don't want to do that because it's just going to go in the garbage. Which, whoa, really?
True.
You say that? Like, so then that kind of catches them off guard, right? So, I mean, you got to be brave. I mean, you got to be bold, and you have to say, look, I know how this works. Like, you're going to pass along my information. I'm not going to get a chance to explain who I am and why is this card here. Yeah, it's just going to end up in the garbage. So if you can give me even an email address of the person you're protecting, like, just let me try that first. Okay. And I find that to be my first line of communication, right? And so it's either an email or a text message. So if I do happen to get that card, and there's a cell phone number on there, you know, I will always send a text message, or that email before I make a call. So if I send a few emails, and I'm not a high pressure kind of guy. I mean, we have great products and we're very easy and reasonable to work with. So like, that's fine. Like I can move on to the next person. So
Yeah.
I don't hound people. I put the information in front of them. I ask for a meeting, and before I send them any information, I just really, all I need is, and I like to use odd numbers in an email. I'll say like, I need 18 minutes of your time.
Yeah.
Could you please make time for me? And if I know I'm emailing a business owner, local business owner, I will make sure to mention that I own a local business here in Wausau, and I'm trying to network and to grow my business as well as grow yours. So that works, to an extent. I mean, I've gotten replies from some of the largest companies in this, like Wisconsin-based companies, because I email them and the subject line is Wisconsin-based business owner here. Please just send me a reply. I just want to make sure I'm talking to the right person.
Explain because I understand what you're doing, but explain why you do why do you do like 18 minutes or 7 minutes as opposed to like 5, 10, or 20?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're specific about the amount of time, like it, and it'll just kind of catch them. Yeah. Like is that a typo? Or I really just need 8 minutes of your time. If somebody says, I'll stop by for a few minutes. Well, what is that, 30? Like, honestly, can I stop by for a few minutes on Friday around 1:00? Like, no, you got to be. If it's the first meeting, you got to say, look, I'll be, and I always put in my emails, I'd be very respectful of your time. Yeah. I'm not going to hound you. I will be very respectful of your time. I just need a chance to tell you what we do.
And how long is that email generally?
As short as possible. I mean, you can't, if you put more than 2 sentences together, like I try to make that a separate paragraph or a separate line. Like a lot of times I just like, hi, this is me. And maybe there'll be 3 lines of email or 2 sentences and then another line and then have a great day. Thank you. Kind of a thing.
And I think one of the other things to point out, one thing that I see a lot of people don't do, get the name of the gatekeeper. Yeah. People like to throw those people aside, but at the end of the day, they hold the keys to the castle.
Yeah. So if they have a card, I grab their card. If they don't, I write their name down.
Yep.
So then, and if I have their email, I'll include them on the email that I'm emailing to the owner or manager. And I always say, Kayla was kind enough to give me your email. She did a great job, or, she was very polite when I came in, and give her a little compliment in that email. And it makes her feel good. Boss is like, oh yeah, cool. She did her job. Just kind of closing the circle there, it's like bringing it all together.
But the other thing too is don't just send an email. That's the other problem, because nobody reads emails. No. But what you're talking about here is it connects to real life, because it's not just an email.
Yeah. So, right. So putting a personal thing in there like that, or my experience about when I walked into the showroom or whatever, that helps. But I suggest sending the emails or the text messages first, because when I do call or show up, then I can always say, hey, I know you're busy. I did send a couple of emails, for an introduction.
Yeah.
But, Drip Media, does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
And it works. Even sometimes they'll say, I'm sorry, I'm so busy. I said, no, it's all right. Like, I'm not hounding you. Like, I'm busy too. I don't get back to emails right away sometimes. Like, that's fine. We're in business. Like,
Yeah, but a lot of people, the problem I see is you do it with an intent and then it gives you an agenda when you call the person. A lot of people will do it where they'll be like, man, I got to get my name out there. I'm going to email 300 businesses. And it's like, you're not going to call them back.
Yeah. No, if you throw that many noodles at the wall, one might stick or whatever, but the chances are pretty slim to none. Where I just very methodically go through, okay, I need some more customers of either this size or I need some more customers of this type. And who should I call first? And then I make that list, and maybe it's 3 or 4 or 5 people that I'm contacting in a week on a cold email or something. It's not the blast to the masses, So I try to make everything personal,
So what's your conversion rate?
Well,
let's say to even getting them to a conversation.
Yeah, so that's all over the place. I track my conversion rate once I get the meeting.
Yeah.
So, and as an owner of a business, you're almost always, much higher than anybody that you'll ever hire for conversion, right? It's just, you're on the spot, you can make the deal, you are passionate, you obviously, your stuff because you've built it, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, if I get the meeting and I can show somebody and explain how we do things and why it's so special, I mean, I'm 75 to 80% close.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great. The cold emails and stuff, I haven't done a good job at tracking that. So once I do an email, I'll probably do a second email saying that I'm going to probably call you later this week, and then I'll probably try the phone. If it doesn't pick up, I'll leave a voicemail, and in the voicemail, I'll probably say, I'm going to swing by your place next week, Tuesday. I'm in town. I'm just going to stop in. I just want to meet you and shake your hand and just introduce myself. So we're just kind of leading up to an introduction. I'm not trying to necessarily set that meeting other than the first email, right? The first email is like, this is why I'm contacting you. Could you please give me 18 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever of your time? And then the second one is, hey, I'm checking in. Don't want to pester you, but I'm going to try to give you a call. And
so do you walk in first or do you email first?
Always email first. I mean, if I don't know who's there or who to email, then I just walk in and I just go on a fact-finding mission. I don't have cards in my hand. I don't have a pen. That's always in my pocket because if you walk in with your folio thing and a notepad, the guard goes up.
Jehovah's Witness.
It's the whole thing it's the whole thing. What are you selling? Why are you here? What are you selling? And usually it's, how can I help you? I say, well, I'm here to check out the place, and I don't know anything about this place. How long has it been here? And that, so no matter who I'm talking to, and then that goes to, wow, 6 years in business. That's cool. This is great. Who runs this place? Is it a local owner or something? And so instead of going in and saying, can I speak to the manager? Like that will piss somebody off. Like the front, like the gatekeeper or the front end clerk or the receptionist or whatever. If you just straight out don't talk to them and ask for a manager, that's not going to work.
Hell no.
That's not going to work.
The thing is people never look at it like from their perspective, and it's like, well, if I were in that position, I'd do this. Like, no, you wouldn't. It's like anytime we've all worked jobs at like a Culver's or a McDonald's or something like that, and as soon as somebody mentions manager, your mind goes total red alert, and you're like, you're out of it.
Why am I not good enough? What, you can't talk to me for a second? Like...
Exactly. And it's so much better if you grab like a kid. That you see it a lot with kids. You'll be like, oh yeah, you look great. They'll walk around in the suit all day. But you see that with everybody when you give them when you show them respect and dignity and give them their own personality or acknowledge their personality or not acknowledge them.
Sure.
They're more than happy to work with you.
Yeah.
100%. Unless you sell Amway. Yeah. You ever had an Amway pitch?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I love it.
I had the Amway. Yeah, I was probably 17, and this woman came into the music store, in the retail store, and she was like, my husband is starting a business and he's got some opportunities. And would you be open to just talking with us sometime? I mean, I really like you. Like, you really got it going. Like, you're really great. And I think you could be very successful with. So, yeah, when they met me for they're like, coffee. I'm like 17. I'm like, okay, I haven't had coffee yet, but I'll go to have coffee. Now I feel like kids start drinking coffee when they're 12, but
it's crazy.
Anyway, yeah, they sat me down and then laid out this whole thing. And that was my first really experience. First time I even heard of a pyramid scheme or multi-level marketing or whatever they call it now. But yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Oh, I remember I had one because a coworker of mine was like, he's like, you're a real go-getter. He's like, you got away with people. He's like, he's like, I'm going to talk to a guy. He might have an opportunity. Comes back the next day. He goes, there's this guy with an opportunity. He wants to talk to you after I told him about you. I said, oh, okay. You know, like, let's look at this. It might be a cool opportunity. And I'm going into it. Dad always raised me saying, you know what? There's pyramid schemes out there. And he's like, he's been to enough Amway things where they're like, it's a great opportunity. So we'd play with their kids for 4 hours. And then you see my parents get out of there and they're like, what the hell just happened? So I had an inkling and I'm like, okay. And I got down there. We were sitting down. He's like, it's good to meet you. The guy was pretty cool. I'm like, you know? So I sit down, I'm listening to this guy talk and he's like, there's 4 categories here. He's like, which one do you want to be? And you know, he's just leading you along looking for the yes answers. And I'm like, having worked in sales and like reading a lot of sales books, going and practicing a lot of stuff, you get to understand the different processes and things. So I'm seeing this whole thing play out and I am enjoying it. It's like, I mean, the pitch was crap, but like the technique, I'm like, I see where he's going. Yeah. So I'm just toying with him the whole time and he's trying to get me to this answer. So I'm like, I want to do this. And totally different answer. And he's like, and he's trying to maneuver me back and I pick the other answer. And I'm just toying with this dude for an hour. And he's like, well, I want to work with a small group of people. I said, no kidding. He's like, yeah, I personally mentor him. I said, no kidding. How many people? I said, he's like, just a few, not very many. I said, how many people do you have? He's like, I'm growing it. I said, how many people? He goes, 36. And the guy's walking out of there and I'm walking with him out to his car. And I said, this is a great opportunity. We got to meet again. He's like, yep.
Yeah, 36. Yeah, he just really needs 2 top earners. That's what they need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And those people need more top earners.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how it works. There's no doubt that there is some success stories in there. I mean, obviously, those companies are in business and people do make money and everything else. So you can't discount it completely, but it's not for many people. Getting in that is a...
The hard thing, too, is a lot of those people burn the bridges.
Oh, sure.
Because they'll go in there. It's kind of like... there's certain industries where you finally start to sell them. Like, it's cool. You want to buy a kid's popcorn or a little girl's Girl Scout cookies. But if somebody comes to you and they're like, hey... I want to do this, and they go to all your family, all your friends. At a certain point, you're going to be like, just lose my number, man.
Right. Yeah. Wow. How did we get on that?
I don't know. Yeah, so I guess jumping into it, though, so your sales process, you'd find out who the decision maker is, either walk in, and then you'd email them. You'd go through that whole thing. What do you think the secret is to closing a deal?
Well, the first, I mean, you got to talk to the right person. I mean, you have to talk to the right person. If the decision maker has somebody else getting your pitch and then they're going to relay the information and like that, it just barely ever works. It really, that's not the way. You need to talk directly to the decision maker.
Or go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, but to close the sale, I mean, you need to. You really need to focus on providing a solution. In my opinion, like if you're selling something, everything that is sold, somebody either wants or needs, and usually it's fixing something, right? It's like
we talked about earlier before the camera started rolling. Very expensive solutions.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I think listening to the potential customer or client, listening to what their needs are, what their goals are. Because, I mean, I'd love to sell my products to everybody, but they're not for everybody. Yeah. And if I don't think it's going to work, I got to walk away. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not delivering good results, how many people does that person that's not happy tell versus somebody
Yeah.
that's happy? Those statistics. It's
Oh, yeah.
at least 10 or maybe 100 to 1, If somebody is not happy with your services, they're going to tell people about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to make sure that you are providing the right product and the right solution for the goals and the needs of your potential customer.
But let's even break that down a little bit, because I mean, everybody knows, or most people know that, yeah, you're providing the solution. I think sometimes finding the problem, though, is because some people will go in there and they'll just have a sales pitch they'll just start going with. But then a lot of times discovering the true problem, because working in advertising and marketing, you are in a unique position that you get to see a lot more problems and really understand if it's going to work, if it's something deeper that they just need to go talk to somebody else.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And I've made the assumption that you'd realize what I mean by asking questions and listening.
Yeah.
So finding the problem is a big part of it. And from way back in my career, walking into a music store and asking them why don't you stock this cowbell? It's the most popular selling cowbell in the industry, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we just don't sell cowbells. Okay, well, why? That's the problem, right? So why don't you sell cowbells? So then you get to the bottom of that. So absolutely, to your point, if you're talking to a business owner and they say, everything is great, we're so busy, we don't need to advertise, we don't need to do anything like that. A lot of times you just gotta say, wow, good for you. That's awesome. I wish I had that problem. I wish, thankfully not everybody has that problem. Usually those people I say, well, maybe you should hire another person and grow your business. But a lot of business owners are just, if they're in their pocket, if they're in their zone, they're in their lane. A lot of business owners don't want to grow.
Yeah.
I believe that businesses can only go in two directions. It's either up or down. You have to continue to grow. Because, I mean, for many obvious reasons, inflation is big on everybody's, that's a big one in the last year. And it is. It's a big deal that we're going through that. But yeah, you need to be prepared for what if it does slow down? What if it does flatten out? You can't just tread water. You got to be moving up, or you will move down, in my opinion. So yeah, but again, your point, back to find the problem, just have the conversation. Are they happy? Are they going to stay in their lane? Are they going to ever advertise their company? There's plenty of places that just say, I've never done advertising and I'm not going to, and we're growing. We gain accounts via word of mouth and we grow with our current customers. Like, great. You're set up. Great. You don't have to tell more people about yourself.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the reasons that I got into coaching and consulting, is because, like you said, a lot of those, I'm also a believer in that. You're either growing or you're dying, because when you walk into a business, it's kind of like sometimes it seems like the business is walking off a plank. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're getting enough new clients, but they're not retaining any clients or something like that, where you're looking at the equation and you're just saying, when's the bottom going to fall?
Yeah. You nailed exactly why we've added some of our services that aren't necessarily exterior advertising. Like, here, Drip Media, we're going to give you some money to place our ads in these places and get these people. I believe your most important customer is your internal customer. If somebody's doing business with you, if you have a retail store and they're there, if you're a patient of theirs and you're sitting in their waiting room, if you're interacting with that company in any way, maybe you're just ordering stuff online and they're emailing you back an order confirmation. But if that order confirmation doesn't tell that customer something new about your company, or, hey, check this out for next time, it's like the add fries with that. It's like, okay, well, you bought the burger. Would you like fries? Or next time, come back and get this. So we've developed our digital signage solutions are really meant for just retail stores or facilities to advertise their own stuff to their internal customers. Like, you got somebody in there. They're already your customer. Keep them your customer. I mean, that's how you grow your business. Yeah. Make sure your current customers are happy, and then you don't need to get so many new ones, because getting new ones is a lot harder than keeping your current ones happy.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people underestimate, because you could dive down and go to like the last 2 to 3%, but a lot of it's what you're talking about is very basic. It's not changing the color to influence different ways that they think, like a psychological perspective. It's just saying, you know what, we've got a Tuesday drink special. We've got something that says it at the front desk. We've got something that says it at the bar. The bartender will talk about it. And then it's also in the most unsuspecting place where you guys put your stuff.
Sure. In the restroom.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. It's a great example because what else are you doing? Yeah. You're looking up at the clouds. You're whistling a song while you're, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
While you're doing your business.
Yeah.
But when it's in there, I mean, yeah, if there's something to read, you're going to read it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's and the our restroom, we call them restroom displays, but we use them in different places. But when we sell advertising externally, we sell it on indoor digital billboards, and most of them are in the restroom because it just freaking works. It's very effective. It's a captive audience, and I mean the feedback and the testimonials, and like when we have a customer on board, they typically they don't leave unless they're just budgets. Something happens, I mean, like people are very happy with what we do from a restroom advertising standpoint. Yeah. And the digital signage thing, back to that for the internal stuff, that's when it's not us. Like that's right. You get your license and we set you up with, we have our own software. So we've developed our own software.
Okay.
Now, so we're not a reseller of software. We don't just hop online or get a relationship with somebody and buy it and resell it. Like it's our own own thing. So we have other people reselling our software. So as an example, even the local IT companies here in Wausau, they get calls for digital signage. Well, digital signage is right. It's a TV or a display or a touch screen in somebody's facility that isn't playing television shows, right? It's for their internal messaging. So, so IT companies, even here in Wausau or Central Wisconsin, I've got customers all over the country really for this product because we can do all of the support remotely. So IT company walks in here in Wausau and says to their job, they don't do digital signage, and nothing against, like, I'm not an IT guy. I can't build out an IT room. They can do that. But when it comes to digital signage, like we have the stuff that people need. It's not a PC HDMI'd into a display and then it's not PowerPoint. It's like, this is interactive digital signage software that's very, very robust, and it's as cheap or as inexpensive rather, right, than anything you can find anywhere in the world. And it's as robust as anything you can find anywhere in the world. And we've got it right here in Wausau, so we don't have any competition on that level either. But that's a big part of our future of our company, is to have the IT companies, other signage companies and things using our software, because we've spent so much time and energy on it, and we believe that it's just the best.
So how would you run that sales process? I mean, not selling the IT companies, but how would you structure the deals on that?
So I already have resellers.
Okay.
I have a handful, and we've tested that out for the last year and a half or so. So our signage.dripmedia.com, that's our portal that people can log into their account and control their digital signs. We've developed sub-sites of that. So one of my customers, resellers, he goes by Lone Oak Digital, and so we've got a loneoakdigital.signage.dripmedia.com, or I think it's an abbreviation of that, but right. So then he goes in, then he can see all of his customers, and his customers, when they log in, just see their account. So now we're at like 3 levels of support. So Lone Oak Digital supports the digital signage that he's selling. Then we support Lone Oak, or we support the customer directly, because it all is like a tier. It all stems from signage.dripmedia.com, and then all these sub accounts and hierarchy, I guess, really just the structure of how that works. So we we sell that direct. We sell that software direct to customers, clients or businesses. And we charge $20 a month, and we bill it annually. It's inexpensive.
Per client?
$240 a year per device. So per TV, unless the TVs are, and it's a player, it's a device, the technical term is, it's a player.
How do you price it on the B2B end though? Like, so how do you structure that?
And so that's, getting to that point, is that we've set up a wholesale price so that they can resell it and make very good margin. If they're selling at $20, they can sell it for less than that. That's okay with us.
Okay, so the price maintains the same. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So our resellers are free to sell it however they want. We ask for a certain cost. It's per license. And before, when I was saying if you have one device with one license and you want to display the content on multiple screens, if it's the same content, you could just use one license and you split your HDMI signals. We even, Bluetooth HDMI across a facility because it's just the same content. If you want to
Bluetooth HDMI?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
2.4, really?
It's there's some, I'll show you because there's some it's actually, there are some that actually work really well, and then there's a whole bunch of them that suck.
Yeah.
That are terrible.
Okay.
So it's taken me a while to kind of flush out all the crappy ones. But I've figured out, and I don't remember the specs off the top of my head, but there's one go-to where, it's not $10. It is going to be a $150 item or something, and we don't. I can source those and resell it, but it's just an Amazon product that we recommend.
And at the end of the day, though, 2.4. The reason I say that is, if you don't get the right 2.4, because there's good 2.4 gigahertz and there's bad 2.4 gigahertz. Like 2.4 is what Wi-Fi, LED lights, Bluetooth, your garage door remote, your baby monitor, your alarm system, all those run on 2.4. But the issue comes up is where if you don't have a good 2.4 system, and there's a few that are good, like what you're talking about, where you've had to go through a lot to figure out what's robust, and you figured out something that works. A lot of people have problems one way or the other. You'll either have a lot of problems or no problems, at least from my experience, because building a wireless rigs and things. But like I said, if you've done, because there's a lot of times people use that as a selling point either which way. And I mean, I think if you've got it robust and it works, I trust it. Because otherwise people will try to talk you out of it.
Yeah. I mean, you would have to educate me on the 2.4 gigahertz and what's that all current. I mean, you know more about that than I do. I just know that I tried some
you used
stuff.
To sell this stuff, man. Come on.
Yeah, it was a little different back then. But we were still in the 700 hertz band. Like, I had to convert wireless units when the TV stations took over.
No kidding.
Yeah, we lived that. We had sold all these wireless microphones, and then a TV station took over that 100 whatever section of the.
That must have been a good sale.
Well, it really sucks because our customers were pissed at us that we sold them products that aren't going to work very well anymore. But ultimately, they had to buy new stuff.
The hard part is like the FCC, I think it was. They ended up buying out a frequency band.
Right. Yeah, and that's
it happens every like
exactly right.
5-10 years. So then what happens is, just to clarify, because I know a lot of people don't understand it, is like you said, they don't have a choice because they're operating on a legal frequency band. So then they got to get all the old stuff out of there, get the new stuff in, and then it goes down the line again where the government sells it off. Like T-Mobile just bought the last for broadband for cell phones.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Huh. It happened because people had to call us when I was working at my old job, and they'd give us a ring. They're like, hey, we got to do this. So you'd have that conversation. Then if it was a live venue or any public place, you'd have to have the conversation about ADA.
Oh, sure.
What does that stand for again? Disabilities?
The American
Disabilities Act.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, you have to have these certain systems. So essentially the government's holding them at gunpoint saying, you need to buy and upgrade all this stuff.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of these TV stations, I mean, I'm not sure about you, but it seems like let's talk about it since we're both marketing guys. What do you think of TV advertising? You think it's on the decline?
Is it on the decline? Does it even exist anymore? I mean, I haven't seen live TV other than a Packer game in 15 years.
Same.
And I mean, it's way over. I shouldn't say way over, but it is the majority of households in this country. They don't have TV. They have streaming. Yeah. They have streaming devices. That's all they do is stream. And like I said, I've been doing it for at least 15 years. Like, it's just, yeah. So television advertising, I would say, is on the decline. Just to be more polite,
I'd say it's dead for anybody under 65. I mean, if we're being honest, because at the end of the day, who's still watching it? Because a lot of the older folk don't want to adopt Netflix, and they're perfectly content with it. They've
Sure.
always watched it, or they've always watched TV a certain way. And I think if you're advertising over 65 and up, which most people aren't, go for it.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, there's a lot of the TV stuff I think is complete BS when it comes to advertising.
Yeah, I'll just agree with you. I mean, I think that for what you have to pay to be in that space, it's in many or most ways a waste of money. I just believe that you don't have the value that you used to.
Yeah.
I believe that the prices have gone up consistently and the viewers have gone down.
Yeah.
So where's the value? Like you're selling a much less, you're selling a product that's not as good as it used to be, and you're charging more for it. Is what I see. And I could be totally wrong. It's just my
I think you're right. Because I mean, when you look at it, depends, are you going to get the ROI on it? You're going to get some sort of return on your investment. $240 for you. I mean, even if you get one client out of it, $240 a month. If you get, or whatever,
$240 a year. We're talking about
$240,000.
We're talking about the internal digital signage, not the advertising billboards. But
so then, how much advertising? $1,000 could go a long way for a client, for somebody looking to advertise.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, so we offer, of course, our indoor digital billboards. That is the most powerful. I'll just say that's the most powerful advertising medium in this area. I believe in that. You get the most for your money on those boards. It depends upon the type of business. Sometimes, like I said earlier, I'm not going to put a certain business on my billboards that just wants to do this 10% off if you buy that's not advertising, right?
Yeah.
That's you got to put your specials where people are, your current
And who's going to whip
customers
their
are
phone
gonna
out to scan a QR code? You're sitting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true.
Just saying.
I mean, a lot of people do. I do get a lot of pictures of ads in the bathroom and stuff, and a lot of people have their phone in their pockets. But yeah, to your point about $1,000, since we've kind of diversified what we're doing, not only the billboards, indoor billboards. And again, that's the most powerful vehicle that I have, especially when it comes to top of mind and just getting your name present to the masses. It's immediate and it grows. I mean, it snowballs. So for the one person that sees the ad, they tell people about it because of where we have them. So we have these things in restaurants. They're in the restroom of restaurants. You go out to dinner, you're either with your family or partner, spouse, kids, whatever. Like that conversation at the table is almost always forced. It's almost always, oh, so what are we going to do tomorrow? Or, oh yeah, look at that.
It's
I
just
like that
bullshit.
window.
Nothing
It's
nobody
bullshit.
cares about.
And that's great. If you can have a conversation instead of just your nose buried in your phone, like that's awesome. Like that's where you should be doing that. But when we go out to eat, we always go to the locations that host our billboards, and we pay attention to obviously what people are saying around us. We sit in the middle of the room, and every time we're there, somebody comes back from the restroom at a different table, and they start telling the other people at the table about what they just saw. And it happens every single time. So it's just, those couple of things when I said earlier that it just simply works. There's a few reasons why. Of course, the captive audience. And then when the captive audience goes to see their people, they start talking about it because it's just a current event that they just saw. Right. So it's natural that conversation comes up. The way people interact with the ads is they typically then go to their cell phone and Google what they're talking about at the table, or they, or they look it up on that business name on social media or something. So our billboards don't necessarily get the direct line for the lead. And really any out of home advertising, which is the category that we're in, digital out of home. Those leads kind of funnel through online channels. So, and you can't just do one thing. I just had this conversation yesterday with a potential client. He said,
glad you're touching on this.
He said, well, I really want to get my name out there. If I could get one or two clients out of a campaign, that'll pay for this whole campaign. He's a home builder, so obviously he's got higher end customers. I said, okay, well, I can definitely get your name and your ad in front of, and we sell by the guaranteed view. Like, we've got this drilled down. We know how many people are going to see your ad on our billboards.
Yeah.
And before I forget, billboards, it's indoor digital billboards. Billboards on the side of the road, they've got about a 3-second dwell time, meaning that you've got 3 seconds to read it, see it, digest it, register it. Like, that's it. Okay. Obviously, they're popular. They're not going away. It's a great way to get certain types of businesses out there. But when I see them, it's like sometimes obviously it's my job. I'm deliberately reading them. I'm trying to figure out what the business is or what they're selling or saying. And sometimes I can't even figure out the name of the business. So again, the right business and the right medium. So I'm very sensitive to that.
The other thing too is like the money that you're paying to get out of it, because TV, you're paying a few $1,000s a month.
It's easy, yeah.
And for a declining audience, billboards. I've worked on a few different campaigns, do some work in politics, and I market for different candidates and things like that. And when they come back with the estimates that come out for the billboards, absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
For like, as a business owner, if you're going to take and use that to market, you better, like you said, know your audience well enough that, like, the personal injury stuff is great, because if you get in an accident or something happens on the side of the road, you look up and sure as heck, there's the lawyer right there. You call him and you wake his ass up out of bed, you know?
Yeah. But to my point about the dwell time, our average dwell time, in the restroom, it's over a minute. It can be as long as 3 minutes, and these aren't statistics that we made up. You can look at this stuff up online, but typically our indoor billboards have anywhere from 90 to 180 seconds, right? Versus 3. So yeah, we put 8 advertisers on each board in a playlist, but the people that are in that space are going to see that ad multiple times while they're using the facility. So I mean, that's just the fact of it. So I said the word billboard, and then sometimes, wait, what, you got billboards? Well, yeah, but they're indoor.
You
digital
crazy
billboards.
son of a gun.
I know. I know, but what do you say? Yeah, we've got TVs in the bathroom. Well, they're not TVs. They're
watching you. Oh man.
Yeah. So I forget why I went down that path.
I don't know, but I got to say one thing. I know one of the things that I always ask people, because there are people that I'll walk into a business, and one of the reasons, I'll say this, when you talk to different business owners and you say, okay, what are you currently doing for advertising?
Oh, that's how we got on
the biggest thing that I'll say is, or I'll ask them is, because they're like, I had my brother came to me and he's like, I was talking to this guy and he's like, this guy told me it was a mentorship program in the area, which I won't say who. And it was an organization, so I wouldn't be throwing somebody under the bus. I'd be throwing
don't do that.
Entity under the bus. Yeah. But they went to him and he's like, I want to get some more business. He's like, I'm making decent money right now. I'm getting enough business, but I want to get more. I want to grow. And he's like, okay. He's like, so how do I advertise? Where do I advertise? Guy told him, you should take and buy some billboards. You should also get some yard signs. And I looked at him and I said, okay. And he's telling me this. I'm like, I said, that's great. I said, could you tell me it was on any of the billboards on the way over here? He looked at me. He's like, well, I know this one, or Nicolay it was. Yep. And he's like,
you could throw a stone and hit a Nicolay
exactly.
billboard.
But Nicolay's on the billboards. They're on the gas station. They're on the toilet, everywhere in social media. Yeah. But you look at it, it's like, that's the greatest question to ask is, what is your experience with it? Because then they'll be like, I don't watch that. And it's like, why the hell would you pay to market your business on something that you don't even pay attention to?
Yeah. We got on that because you said, well, what can you do for $1,000, right? Yeah. And we've got great services, but the first question I ask is, and back to the home builder, I said, well, what else are you doing for advertising? Yeah. Because no matter how effective our billboards are, if that's the only marketing that you're doing, it's not enough. I mean, you need to be in several channels. And when you do put an ad on our billboards, you better make sure that your website is up to speed and looking good.
Great point.
You need to make sure that your social media pages are looking good because people are going to look you up. They're going to Google you. and you better make sure that you show up in the search.
Yep.
and you should organically. You know, you don't need, that's not rocket science. And you got to make sure that when they click on you and they go to your website, you got to tell them about you in 5 seconds. That's all you get.
Yep.
You got to tell them about yourself, or reel them in that first 5 seconds. And your branding needs to be consistent there across all of those channels.
That's the biggest problem that I see with everybody. That's one of the reasons that I love the business I'm in, as being full service for most of this, because the SEO and stuff you can hire out easily. But when you're talking about the things that actually have the creative decisions about how your company's portrayed, like I do a lot of video work, I do a lot of websites, and I do some social media work too. And I see that as the biggest thing, because like I'll work on some of their social media pages and they're like, well, we already pay for a website, we don't really want. And you just see this all the time. You look at the website, and that is the hub of their business. Like, people might reach out to you on social media, but a website's where it gets real. People find you anywhere.
Yeah.
They're going to your website. That is the hub. Any advertising. And I see that if a lot of times it's a very diluted process on here's how we're going to take and get the product out there, or even like a form to contact us for a service. But to your point, on the first page, I'm a huge proponent of video on the homepage, because subliminally, like if you have an old person on the homepage, they're going to think that you work with older people. If you have a kid on the homepage, you're going to think you work with kids. And you take and you put a simple word up there, a simple phrase, and it says, okay, if nothing else, we know what Drip Media does. And it's here's who they work with.
Yeah.
Very basic.
Yeah.
But like to your point, you do only have 5 times. And to the marketing point that you said, I mean, people, there was the book Guerrilla Marketing, I think it's at 11 or 13 times it takes somebody, they have to see something before they actually inquire about it.
Yeah, or realize that they saw it, you know, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. Yeah, and I've heard those statistics, different, you know, from different sources, being 7 to 10 or 8 to 12 or whatever. But I think with all the noise today, it's definitely in the higher 12 to 15. You know,
I agree.
mean, you have to be everywhere. I mean, if you really want to make an impact, people have to see your name over and over again.
And I think you have to do a shock too, because one of the biggest problems I see is people get focused in their industry and they're like, man, this insurance agent, if you're an insurance agent, this insurance agent's just got a great thing going. But the problem is once they do it, everyone else is going to do it. Or you're focusing only in your industry, when I think if you were to adopt a different like tactic, or like even with your advertising, if you have a plain old ad, I don't think it's going to do as well as something that's going to jump out at them. Like when you used 18 in the email as opposed to, it's just going to take me 20 minutes. It's going to take 18 minutes. Something's going to jar in their head and it's like, okay, this is just bullshit advertising. It's an email from a guy. Wait, 18 minutes? It just it wakes them up a little bit. Like there was a lawyer. Did you hear about the lawyer in Texas that almost got disbarred?
No. Was this like 2 guys walk into a bar and no?
Oh no, I think you're watching too many of those websites. But no, so this guy goes over and he puts on a commercial and he films it and throws it out there, and he's breaking through. I was like, I'm gonna get you all the money that you deserve. I'm gonna take and he was like doing personal injury or something. So many people complained, and he got so much business from it. But he had all these lawyers that complained and said, well, we don't like this. So they threw him in front of the bar, and the bar's like, he didn't do anything wrong, but they tried to disbar him.
Really?
But he was raking in so much cash from just doing an out-of-the-box advertisement, or out-of-the-box, to your point, the branding. Like Mr. Dr. Squatch was the other one.
Oh, really?
You remember that commercial?
No. Commercial?
Really?
Where was it? On TV?
TV, social media, like 5 years ago. Like you couldn't...
Never seen it.
Oh, man, you couldn't watch YouTube without it. He's like, the soap you're showering with, it's shit. That's how it opens. To your point, you've got just a couple seconds to hit him. It's the best way to hit him. And then he starts talking, and then he opens up or pulls back the curtain of the shower, and there's this guy showering with soap. And he's like, mom's little boy. And he just starts going on. They're already hooked at that point. Then he goes to actually saying, okay, well, here's what we actually offer. Like you make a bold claim, and then he just starts to say, well, listen, here's what's really in here's what the chemicals are that are in the soap that you use generally. Genius, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's the shock and awe. I mean that's what it takes, in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
you know.
But you prove it. You're not just saying something crazy just to say something crazy. It's like It's like, okay, we're going to say this and then it's going to work.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And if you don't have the goods or the facts to back that up, your reputation is, you'll never, I mean, you're going to be up and down in a heartbeat. So you better be able to produce some good soap if you say that.
Yeah, no kidding. So what's the craziest experience you've had walking into a business? Was there ever something that, because I mean, you've got years of experience doing this, there's something that pops into your head? Because they're always curious what the best scenario is, what the worst scenario is. Like, what's the worst case scenario you've ever truly had?
Well, the first thing that pops into my mind, I wouldn't say this is like terrible or awful, but it just was rude and shitty. Is I walked into an insurance agent's office, so national brand insurance company, and the office is set up so that the receptionist basically is right when you walk in the door.
Yeah.
And then the offices are kind of around in almost like a half circle. And the boss, the main person, the office is just off to the right. Door is wide open. He's sitting at his desk. And I'm like, so is Steve here? And I'm just making up a name.
Yeah.
And I could see him sitting at his desk, and she's like, well, did you have an appointment? I'm like, no, I just I've never met the guy before, and I'm a local business owner or whatever. And so she pretends to kind of like look at a calendar, I think. He's like, yeah, he's in a meeting right now. And I can see him sitting at his desk. He's probably playing solitaire or something. he's like 15, 20 feet away from me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, and I kind of raise my voice a little. And if Steve's too busy right now, then I'll maybe come back again. And the phone didn't ring, but he picked up the phone. And I'm just like, wow, you jerk.
Dick.
Yeah, so you get that. But I loved telling that story. So when stuff like that happens to me, I go directly to those people's competition. And I love telling their competition about what just happened in that office. An insurance agent, and I'm not picking on insurance agents, but every customer, every person that they come in contact is a potential customer.
Yep.
So it's not in my deal where it's B2B primarily, right? It's like every human could be that person's customer. So, you need to treat everyone with some level of respect, So back to my point, if somebody's rude to me or, and I don't demand a lot. I mean, I don't need you to like call me sir, or I don't care, but like, you can't even take the common courtesy to just 10 seconds, shake your hand. Thanks for coming in. I'd love to talk with you sometime, whatever. That's even blowing somebody off, but that's more polite than pretending to be on a fake phone call. I go to the competition, and the competition they love hearing that story. I've walked into a competitor. This was a different retail type of environment, and the manager happened to be behind the counter, and I was like, "How you doing today?" And I'm like, "Do you sell these kind of products?" I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, we got them right over here." I'm like, "Well, I'm actually wondering just because I was just at this place and they sell these products and they were jerks." And they're just like, "Oh, really? What happened?" And I'd like to sell something to you at half price because
they were just
So, there's lots of different strategies, and you don't throw them under the bus. You just tell the real story of like, they were kind of like, this happened to me. Like, I'm not trying to spread rumors here, but this is what happened, and now I'd rather do business with you. So let's talk. Exactly,
and that's the big point is, do you really want to do business? Are you going to keep calling on somebody that's just a complete dick to you?
No, absolutely not.
Exactly.
The best feeling, one of the best feelings in business is the first time you get to fire a customer. You can't do it when you're on your first day. Believe me.
Mom?
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. I mean, when new businesses start, and I love working with new businesses. I do some consulting, I will say, on the side, not as a charged service, but just because we have a conversation and they ask me my opinion about something. So I feel like when I'm telling them how I did it, it is almost like consulting,
it's
or
like coaching.
Just helping. It's coaching, and I love doing that. that part of my job, getting to know the businesses and making a suggestion on what I saw somebody else do that was successful or whatever. Like that gets me up in the morning. That gets me excited when I can help people. But I don't remember where my point was there.
I guess why don't you do more coaching?
That's a great question. I haven't found the right way to turn it into a revenue stream. Simple, right?
Yeah.
You say, hey, I'll coach you and I'll charge you $100 and then we're good. But I think at this point in where Drip Media is and the moving parts that I have going on there, it would just be a mission creep. It would really take away from the focus on growing this business. So I miss educating. I did a lot of that in my past careers.
I disagree. I mean, I think you could do it because, I mean, you already do it. I think the only difference, because, for instance, we talked when we were grabbing lunch a couple months back.
Sure.
You did a networking group, or you did a networking clinic seminar, just something basically covered the costs of the event. You didn't really, it wasn't a massive profit, but you had a great turnout. You did some great information, and it wasn't a sales pitch. No. So I mean, if you enjoy the stuff, I think people want it, because that's one of the reasons that coming in the new year, I'm doing a lot of local classes, because I think there's a lot of people. It's one thing to just have somebody do it for you, but it's another thing to actually understand it. Mm-hmm. And you see this all the time. There's a lot of BS out there that people get spread and fed.
For sure.
I think you could. The time it take. You just take on a couple people and say, listen. All it starts with is one that says, you know what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. My business is failing, or my business isn't growing. Regardless, they don't like where they're at. You work up whatever you want to do and say, listen, I'm going to make you my guinea pig, or I'll do this price for you. Let's just do it at that per hour or something like that. Because, people want to know the information, and there's very few people that I say I trust the information that they give, and you're on that list.
Thank you.
I think you know your stuff, at least.
Thanks.
As far
either
as I
that
know.
or I'm good at bullshitting. I don't know.
He paid me $5.
Yeah.
But no, you know your stuff. I just think that's the biggest thing, is there's a lot of people that know different things, and there's not enough of you that go out there that actually teach people.
Yeah.
The people that go out and teach people, in my opinion, have no business being in the industry, whatever industry they're in. Because I think there's some great people out there, but the biggest problem that I see, and I encounter this with a lot of my clients that I consult with, is they go online, watch guys, these business gurus. They're like, you know what, you got to start a business. You got to do this. You got to do that. Yeah. They go do it, and they're like, yes. They get out in the real world. They quit their job. They do whatever. They take whatever leap it is that they're going to get themselves in that position to do what they want to do. And then they come back to the same people, looking at their videos, going to conferences or seminars, saying, how do I do this? And they're like, well, you can do it. And then at that point, they don't know what the hell to do.
Right.
Or they get fed wrong advice, and then they're spending all this money in learning, which, you're going to you got to pay to learn. You're going to take your lumps, but to pay to learn only to pay to learn that the learning you got was, I don't know. I think a lot of those steps can be avoided.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's all about implementation when you talk about, going to a seminar or listening to somebody or getting coaching, right?
Yeah.
And I've had business coaches throughout the years, and highly recommend having a person like that. I looked at a business coach as the cheapest business partner that I could fire at any time.
Yeah.
Right? They're invested in your company. They're not monetarily, but they're invested because if you're not successful, they're not successful. Yep. Right? So they want to see you grow. They give you materials, ideas, they help you along.
Yeah.
And if you don't like how it's going, you just say, well, we're done. And so that's why I really am a huge advocate for business coaches. And to your point, I'd love to do it. And I think I'll get there. It's just the priorities for me are jumbled around. I'm a family man, young kids, trying to build this business. Yeah. And I cherish and kind of protect my weekends and evenings. I'm a business owner, so I'm my phone is here. It's I'm sure I'm going to open it up to 25 text messages and emails and stuff in a few minutes when we wrap up. But yeah, and we're working, but no, it's just the priorities, you know, and we talked about music.
Yeah.
Like I'm a musician, but I haven't played music in a long time, 10 years probably.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to teach or if I want to get back into music or
Ooh.
yeah.
Tough one.
But at the end of the day, Drip Media has grown, you know, kind of month over month over the last few years. That we're kind of back in it full time after you know the remnants of the pandemic and all of that. That kind of tore us apart, you know, during those and many other businesses, and we're very grateful and lucky, honestly, to be here. So yeah, I mean, this business is we're growing, and as we add staff, then there'll be more opportunities for me to do some other stuff and get in front of more people. I mean, because you know, educating and doing seminars, all that helps is my network. And we said earlier, like networking is the cornerstone, the number one business driver in not only this business but any other one that I've been a part of.
True, but I think people misunderstand the networking. That's the reason that I've pulled out of a lot of networking groups, is because, like you said, it's not about going there and getting the business. It's about growing there and growing the relationship. Because you may not get business from that person, but the people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
And if Bobby says, you know what, I need to do some advertising, they're going to remember the guy that's like, you know, Brandon does this, does this thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, personal opinion there, but
no, you're right on. I mean, networking is you have to be deliberate. This isn't networking is. I mean, we could sit and have a different conversation about networking for 3 hours. There's strategies that go into it. I mean, there are ways that you approach the crowd. There's things that you do to single out or pick out the people that you think you should talk to. And there's all kinds of stuff.
We could have a whole other podcast on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can't just show up. I don't know how many times I've gone to networking. Every time I go to a networking meeting or a group or even just a social event, there are people there that don't have their business cards on them. I mean, it's just like it, and it's like, oh, I just ran out, or I had some in my car, but well, obviously you're not here to network. Let me say something else about business cards.
Yeah, go for it.
The digital business card, the tap, the this, the that it's bullshit. That doesn't work. Okay, it's cool, and you should have it. But if you think you're going to replace an actual paper business card or plastic or metal or whatever you want to print it on, I think that's a huge mistake. And the point being, and the reason why is because you tap somebody there, you got my contact information. Where does that contact information go? Well, it goes into the contacts, right? So how are you going to remember that person's name to look them up? How are you going to remember their business name? Or like you have to somehow, maybe you should write it down so then you can look it up in your phone. Or you just grab their paper business card and you make a little note on it. I don't care what anybody says. That is the most effective way to do it.
I disagree. Okay.
Right.
The one thing I do think is I think a lot of the digital business cards are bullshit, because I agree. Once it goes in your contacts, I still have contacts from businesses that I worked with years ago. I will never get in touch with them again. I just got to delete them. But I do think you do get the advantage. I do think a business card, especially when you look at anybody over 30, absolutely give them a business card because the tap stuff. But when you go to other parts of the country, I found that a lot of them do the digital. But you have to be, if you don't follow through and get their number and shoot them a text message, so you have their contact, and it's not like, hey, yeah, I just gave you this digital business card, and it's like, there's no way for you to follow through. I think that's the biggest problem that happens, because then it gets lost in their contacts. There's no way for you to jar their memory. You can't shoot a text message back or anything.
100%. And yes, if you're the person that's holding a digital card and you want to give it to somebody, it's on you to follow up with them. They're not going to call you. And that's the same with handing a card. However, there's stacks of cards all over this desk of people that I've met that I haven't gone through and followed up with yet. And those cards might sit there for another month. And every time I walk by, I see that brand, I see that name, I see that person. It's like, oh man, I was terrible with my follow-ups. And follow-ups are like, that is the most essential piece of networking.
Yeah.
If you meet somebody new and you don't follow up, it's called the rule of 72. But really, in my opinion, you don't follow up within one business day. That's gone. They're gonna if you contact them in a week or two or a month, like they don't remember you.
True.
Like, I mean, they might say, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right." That well, okay, never mind. But
Yeah.
if you had, when you're networking, you've got the first 3 seconds to set up the next 30 seconds of conversation, to book a 30-minute meeting sometime, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what's powerful about the digital stuff. You want to give them your card, fine, but if you tap your card, you better set a calendar reminder to follow up or set the meeting while you're standing there.
I agree, but like you said, it comes down to the impression. You've only got, I mean, some people say it's 3 seconds, some say it's 7, depending on who you listen to. But you've only got a handful of seconds to actually make an impression on that person and how they're going to think about you. And to your point, yeah, you're going to go in there, and I typically like to just work the room. I'll just work my way around. But if there's too many people in the room, you kind of identify who do I need to get in touch with, either that I just want to get to know or that I could be a potential client for me. But that's a whole other can of worms inside of itself.
Yeah.
But it's about that time, ain't it?
Oh, I don't know. What time is it? We're good on time, but yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the stuff you said makes complete sense, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you specifically, was because even though you don't do the coaching now, I think in my opinion, you've got the business prowess, because I talk to a lot of business owners on a daily basis because I do the coaching and consulting, and a lot of it is really and the only reason I got into it was because you look at the marketing. They approach you, they're like, we want to advertise, and you can instantly see either your website's not up to par, your business's logo is off, your branding's off, your sales strategy, your sales processes aren't working. And those are all things that if they're not succinct and they're not formatted in a certain way, it doesn't matter how much money you pay in advertising, or you can pay $1,000 in advertising and only get $100 worth of advertising from it. And that's the biggest pain point that I see, and one of the hardest things that I have with doing marketing for people is because a lot of those people they're not in a position to market. It's like, you got so much work you got to do in your branding. Because if you're getting word of mouth, but you don't even have a one-liner that people can say to people.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, they kind of do this. It's this great opportunity. It's this great idea.
Yeah. There's tons of opportunity out there, and like I said earlier, I really enjoy helping small businesses grow with ideas and things. So yeah, there's definitely a future in it for me. I mean, I know a lot because I've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
But if you don't make any mistakes, then you're not in business. You're not going to be successful unless you screw it up sometimes.
Yeah.
To a sense. But yeah, you got to try things. You got to get out there. You have to experiment with all of those things. And when you don't like the way something's going, you have to adjust. You can't just deal or live rather with the problem that you created. You got to fix it. So, and working with the other great thing that I love is working with all these other businesses. I get to hear these stories, right? So it's not just, I've been somewhat successful in my career, and but seeing the really successful and the other people that have made mistakes, I've learned from other people's stuff too. So yeah, I appreciate the compliment and comment on that. And I all in time. I think I envision Drip Media becoming an agency to help businesses grow. So that could be different ways to market, different ways to advertise, different ways to do whatever, your books, your this, your that. At some point we're going to be having not only advertising and digital signage offerings. I mean, we're going to grow, and there's a lot of opportunity to do so.
Oh, I agree. I guess, what's the biggest thing that you'd say? What's your biggest fault or thing that you're working on right now?
Personally,
Yeah,
it's the execution. It kind of always has been. I have to really keep a close eye on that. before we started our own company, I was working in executive management for a couple of large e-commerce companies or medium-sized e-commerce companies, and there was infrastructure there. So I had employees and I had people and stuff, so I could come up with this great idea. And I'm very good at processes, and I'm very good at how it should be done, and thinking through the what's going to be the best result by doing these actions. But doing the work myself hasn't never been my strong suit. So I have to keep myself really accountable on executing our business plans.
What have you found works for you?
I've done a variety of different things. I think really kind of being a slave to the calendar is what is best for me. Okay. And I need to block off time to do the simplest tasks. I need to block off, I need to set a timer on my phone for 60 minutes, and I turn off notifications, and I need to do these 4 email follow-ups, or I need to, balance this spreadsheet or whatever accounting thing, so I need to look at what really needs to be done for the business to be successfl, pick that apart into little segments, and then book time on my calendar for it. Okay. And if I get away from that, everything kind of starts, a lot of things to slip through the cracks. So, and I've got some good support. So, my wife works with me in the business, Amy. She's, with me part-time, and we have a part-time office manager, and they are both constantly telling me that I'm late and supposed to be somewhere. And did you get that done? But in a good way, because that's what I need help with, right? Is just because I'll go out for the day and I'll strike up 10 conversations, and all of a sudden it's 5 p.m. and it's like, oh gosh, I didn't get anything done, because I enjoy that part of it more. But yeah, I think it's just the execution is where I struggle. I'm a much better leader than I am worker. I don't know how to phrase that properly.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you've got your great ideas, man. You're somebody who can visualize, build out a whole system, and say, okay, now we can do this, as opposed to connecting the dots.
Right.
Because, I mean, that was one of the hardest things that I had to adjust, was working in where I was down in Indiana, in Fort Wayne, and coming back, I never really had to follow through on anything. The reason being was I'm selling the product, I'm troubleshooting a little bit. If it had to get troubleshot further, I send it off to someone else. If there's anything else, I was pretty much just on the sales end of it, and then just on like the relationship building. As far as doing the work, coming back, it was a tough thing that I had to navigate, because that building relationship was not just a robust, loose relationship anymore. It was a very intertwined. This relationship keeps going and going and going, and it's much more frequent. And that was one thing that I'm still working through a little bit, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and it goes right along with it is, the time management. Like, I do the things that really need to be done, and I get them done on time, and we make sure that the lights stay on and bills are paid and whatever. But it's hard to justify spending a certain amount of time on something that you really is bugging you versus something that's going to make you more money or push your business along to the next step, right? So I'm not terrible at it, but I do kind of force myself not to get stuck in the fix mode of something that can wait. It's not perfect, but we need to do this so that we can move the business forward.
You find you get sidetracked real easy? Like if something comes up, you're just like squirrel?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm shiny object syndrome. But that's when I book the time on my phone and I set a timer, then I dig in and I get rid of the distractions. And I just know that I need to do that as the person that I am. And I'm like a no time like the present kind of person. So if something comes up, I tend to it's like whack-a-mole. I just go ahead and whack the mole, and then all of a sudden, an hour goes by and you're doing that. But yeah, stick with the calendar and everything is fine in my life.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you. This is great. And we're here in our this Drip Media headquarters here on Merrill Avenue in Wausau.
Wausau, Wisconsin.
Wausau, Wisconsin. Yes. Yeah. We're we're barely ever here, so we just got a couple of workstations in our little
Yeah.
office, and we're always out and about and doing stuff.
And if anyone wants to reach you, if they have questions about anything we talked about, what's the best way?
Honestly, the best way to reach me is to text me directly. That my cell phone is 715-581-3747. It's Brandon at dripmedia.com is the email. And of course, you can go to dripmedia.com. We're launching our new website soon. I keep saying that, it's like every month it's soon, and it's
Yeah,
been going
exactly.
on. But yeah, we've got a nice updated website that's should be on the horizon here shortly. But those are the primary ways. Of course, we've got the Facebooks and the social medias and the Instagrams and the this
Facebook,
and
Instagram, LinkedIn. Yeah.
the standard issue stuff. But yeah, again, my cell is like text me is the greatest way. Text messages, I can't live without them. 715-581-3747. Which
Perfect.
3747 is drip actually, but I never say 581 drip. Maybe I should start. That should be my
581 drip.
581 drip.
Man, you're missing out. Well, thanks again, Brandon. Appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks.
Cool.
That's a wrap.
That is a wrap.
Live with WNBC.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost my train of thought so many times.
Yeah, but that's the fun part. It's a podcast.
We came back to it, but I was
I was purposely taking you off track.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
It's more fun like that.
Oh, that's good. I just noticed the update.
Who does your website?
This is the
You guys have it on Squarespace or something?
no, he's building it on Wix, I think.
Oh.
This is Daniel Tyler. Tyler Industries. It's not 346. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what the hell?
Time check to roll?
I thought it. Oh my gosh.
How long do we go for?
No, you're fine.
Okay.